back to another week of The Take. I'm Bill Gannon.
I'm John Spinato.
And tonight's guests, we have a few gentlemen here from the Board of Ed. We're going to have them introduce themselves. We can start at the end over here.
Yes, my name is Charles A. Blango. I am the Director of Dropout Truancy and Social Development for the Board of Education in New Haven, Connecticut.
My name is Larry Conaway. I'm principal of New Light High School in New Haven, Connecticut. It's an alternative school that has 40 students, and we get students from all over the city.
Name's Earl Carthens, dropout prevention. I work at Wilbur Cross, but that's what I do.
Yes, and I too, Reginald Slade, dropout prevention, truancy specialist, Board of Education, New Haven Board of Education.
Now, when you guys say dropout truancy, I know going back to Little Rascals, you know, they always had the truant officer always coming after you. Is that basically what you do? You go and you find the kids that have poor attendance, or is it how many times do they have to be out of school before you actually, you know, maybe make a stop at their door or try to find the kids?
Well, 4 days in a month that we call truant. Then we call chronic if they have 10 to 19 days. And then we call habitual if they have 20 days or more. But when we look at truancy, that the concept of chasing kids, know that we look at truancy of looking at kids not just days out, but just finding out what's going on in their life and the situation, because it can vary from various things. Because you can have a kid out for a cold, you can have a kid out for medical condition. So when you look at truant, you can put it in maybe many different categories. But truancy, basically, just to give you a brief view, is, you know, it's truant and dropout prevention department. That truancy, that we look at the definition of engaging in kids that disengage in school.
Okay. Now, what age groups do you guys really find it to be? Are you, like, is it more high school? Is it more middle school? Or is it really just doesn't matter anymore? Is it something that you're finding that it's starting to kind of become more of an epidemic in the school systems, or do you have a reason what these kids? I know you said there's multiple reasons and multiple, I guess, could be sicknesses, could be, you know, maybe a family issue, something like that. But so you take in the kids and you kind of find out, you talk to them, touch base with them, and try to find out what's actually going on in their lives, and like a success rate with the kids. How is that?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to refer that I have two of my staff that works with me. One has a high school. He mentioned Cross, but he forgot to mention New Light too.
Okay.
That he has the high school, which is Earl Carthens, and then he will tell you the age groups of the kids that at his particular school, and then we'll go to Reginald Slade, who has a middle school, but he also has a high school, and they can elaborate of the kids and some of engaging in the kids and what they see and talking to the family. So at this time, I will refer that to them to give you a more different perspective of being out in the field. So if you want to start with the high school with Earl Carthens.
Yeah, I'm at Wilbur Cross High School and New Light. The kids that we work with is anywhere from the ages 13 to 20, 21. What we do is if a kid is late, a lot of times we have X amount of time, so we go out and we talk with the parents. We talk to the kids, and when we do get them back in school, we talk to them and we stay with them, and you know, we encourage them to, you know, to pick up where they left off at, and basically like a father or a mentoring type of situation, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you know, working with young people in the city for about 15 years, I've worked with various ages, like you said, from high school to middle school to you know, grade school, and I'm currently at Lincoln Bassett, Salentano, and Betsy Ross, and I've I have a few assignments with a couple of the high school kids. But from from kindergarten to 6th, 7th grade, we work with 8th grade, kids transitioning into high school, and we basically try to, like you said, have a have a relationship with not only the child, the student, but the parent. Find out what are the reasons why the kids are disengaged or missing school. We currently are in a big busing district, and so during rough weather and in wintertime, sometimes kids are out at the bus stop for a long time. Parents said that due to the weather they can't stay out there to wait for buses to get through. You got snowbanks, you got traffic, so there's various reasons in the wintertime why kids are out. Flu, cold season, you have family emergencies, you have kids who are displaced, families who are displaced. So it's various reasons why kids are not attending school. Some of it is negligent, some of it isn't, some of it is due to families just having being in transition.
Right.
And so we just have to get all that information and then, like you said, encourage the families to do the best to get the child to school on a regular basis.
You kind of assess the situation.
Yes.
What you're given
Yes.
from all that. That's great. And I can see, just talking to you guys beforehand and everything, you guys are just seem like ultimate role models, and I think that you're probably doing great things for these kids and just trying to steer them in the right direction, and that's a great thing. Do you guys have any say in as far as like the busing? I know this year was terrible with the snowbanks and everything, and down in the cities there's really nowhere to put the snow.
Yes.
and that. And do you guys ever?
We had a rough winter, a couple of winters, and what this is my experience is parents saying that they're having a tough time getting kids to the bus stop, or or it's cold, or it's we have kids who live a distance from their bus stop sometime, where they have their little ones that have to walk early in the morning. Parents may not have resources to get the child to the bus stop on time. Some parents live across town, they don't have adequate transportation. So like I said, it's various reasons why.
It's a little different in the high school because a lot of the kids catch the city bus, or some of them drive. So his situation is a little different because he's dealing with smaller kids.
Right.
But,
what are the can I ask questions?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, what are the challenges though of getting in touch with these families? I mean, we kind of glossed over that a little bit, just saying, oh yeah, we just give them a call.
Well,
I mean, what are the challenges for actually reaching the parents and
Well,
reaching the families?
it's sometimes a little tough if you don't you have to pick your time to go because parents work too.
Right.
And and sometimes you go there, you have to keep going until you actually make that connection.
Yeah.
So we get them.
Yeah.
So you try to get there face to face with them, or you try to call them on the phone?
We'll call them, but we want to talk to them face to face.
I got you.
So that's what we try to do.
And a lot of times we send letters, we make phone calls, we again we try to sometimes we may go after hours if it's really that serious. We try to put our best foot forward to get in touch with the parent. A lot of times if we have several methods of getting in touch with them, the parent have no problem of calling us back or coming over to the school or meeting with us one-on-one. So that's a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. Yeah. I've made some home visits with these guys, and there are various ways that we get in contact with parents, but the best way that when we really want to talk to them is doing it face to face. In fact, I made a home visit with my special education teacher today. It was not for a truancy reason, but it was for another reason. And the meeting turned out to be very well because we were able to just make that face to face contact with the parent. There was some documents that we had to get signed
Yeah.
to do some assessing of the student.
Right.
We did that. The truancy officers helped me do that. Our school is 100% youth stat school, where we provide services, get jobs, place kids in programs. So sometimes we had to go through a process, and truancy helped us out a great deal in just getting those signatures to have the students receive specialized services.
I got
So
you. Yeah.
face-to-face is the best. So
Yeah.
and we were lucky on both times. When I went out with Mr. Carthens, we were able to find the student. Reason she wasn't coming to school because she was babysitting.
Wow.
And then today, when I went out to make the home visit with my special education teacher, the parent was home. So
Yeah.
and we were able to explain what the situation. Very cooperative, very appreciative.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like just such an amazing challenge, just to try to gather all this in and understand the amount of let's call it man hours that actually takes to get one child back to school. Do you find that overwhelming, Charles?
No, I don't
No?
find it overwhelming. I find it gratifying because when you look at statistical that we're looking at minority kids.
Yeah.
In addition to that, looking at minority kids, that most of the minority kids that they no kid wakes up and born and say, I don't want an education. I don't want to go to school. And I look at it as basically like this young man right here next to me, that Mr. Larry Conaway, who was a mentor to me. I never forget when I was 20 years old and I was married at the age of 20, and he gave me an opportunity to be a mentor. Addition to that, to put my family up, and took that opportunity to invest in me. So when I look at these kids, that you have one or two options that you look at, that if you don't invest in them, then they'll be a menace of society. And they are kids. And right now that we realize that most of the kids now, that they're looking, school isn't out for them. And so I think it's really rewarding that when a kid can come back and say, you helped me. A kid can say that, you inspire me. A kid can say that, that if it wasn't for you, I don't know where I would be. So I find it rewarding. In addition to that, I was one of them kids. And like I alluded to earlier, like Mr. Larry Conaway, addition to that, Mr. Reginald Slade, that as a young man he was a mentor and running a program at a school, the same school, 30 years ago, that he, for my kids, went to an after-school program that was able me to work and be a productive citizen, a father. And so you give back and you don't forget them things. And it's 30 years later. I haven't forgotten that he invests in my kids and invests in me, that I can be. So I don't find it a challenge. And what I find a challenge when I look at society, that when I see these killings and we don't do nothing about it, I find a challenge that, and I'm going to refer to Mr. Conaway, that here he have the kids where I would say that is almost the last stop. So I would love for Mr. Conaway to talk about his experience of how he invests in these kids, because ultimately when we run out of options, he becomes the option. So I'm going to refer to Mr. Conaway.
Thank you. I was at Wilbur-Cross High School for a decade and a year, and these kids were at Wilbur-Cross High School. But Wilbur-Cross was so big that you just couldn't give the students the individualized time that you wanted to give them. So I did that for 10 years, and it was rewarding. I liked being a governor, but an opportunity presented itself a year and a half ago, where the position of an alternative school principal came available, and I asked the superintendent if I could be placed there. I asked for this, and it's something that, like Mr. Blango said, I don't even look at it as hard work. I have a passion for it. Awesome. In fact, I really love working with these second, third, and sometimes fourth chance kids. My school right now is what we call overage, undercredited. So you could imagine what these kids have been through, you know, middle school and high school particularly. And so, and our major problem is truancy. And the reason it's truancy is these kids, they've had bad experiences at school. Some of them, there's other reasons. There's illnesses, there's sicknesses, sometimes incarceration. But their major reason for being truant is that they've had bad experience at school. So I'm trying to give them, as I take the baton for their last leg to graduation, to try to give them a positive experience and get them a post-high school plan. So the work to me is more passionate than anything. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build a team to do the work. And Mr. Blango, you know, is helping me do that. And I work very closely with these two gentlemen too, Mr. Reginald Slade and Mr. Earl Carthens. And what we try to do is we try to help kids. In some respect, we try to save them.
Yeah.
You know, so you know that's where I'm at with this whole thing.
And we have an old saying from our culture, and we used to say, and there's an old African proverb, that it take a village to raise a child.
Amen.
And we in this together.
Yeah.
So, and we realize that these gentlemen that's at this table have impacted a kid's life, and the reward that you receive is when you see that kid give back. And when I look at these gentlemen, even as a former basketball coach of Hill House, addition to that like I alluded to earlier, and even my children went to Cross. And as Mr. Carlton has been at Cross for over 20-something years, that invested in my kids, that, you know, and so I find it very rewarding, very rewarding. But to, you know, look at Mr. Conaway, that it's be honest, words cannot express that. You see, like he said, the passion, the love, the energy. You have to want to do it. It's like sports. You got to want to play. It's like going to work. You got to want to go to work. And it's not because of the pay, but it's because of the reward that you can change. You can be an agent that change someone's life. And that's what it's all about, to being that agent, that you are the one that they can come back and tell their kids, because some of these kids are engineers. Some of these kids are scientists. Some of these kids are professional basketball players. And these are the kids, if you go into neighborhoods where people won't go, just to go and save a kid's life.
John, you've heard of the Hyde School, haven't you?
Yeah.
New Haven Hyde School.
Yeah.
Well, I was one of the first administrators there, and I went there when it was nothing. And then and Mr. Blango reminded me that, and the kids probably don't even make the connection of I started the first athletic program there. I was the principal. I facilitated that. I remember with Gary Aurora bringing in football uniforms, playing, you know. And I remember my athletic director telling me, you need to close this program down because somebody's going to get hurt and it's going to be on your dime. And I took the chance, and they went on to win several football championships in the S. Coach Steve Jefferson, who also I hired, he went on to win several basketball championships, placing kids Division I, II, III. Couple kids went pros, that sort of stuff. You never know where this stuff is going to go. But you know what's even more rewarding? When I first started in the New Haven Public School, I worked at a school called Urban Youth Center, and it was this is interesting. I started at alternative schools, and I'm ending at alternative schools, I think. I think.
You're too young. You don't know yourself yet, you know?
And you just never know where it's going. But even more rewarding than you know, watching the athletes go pro, and kids go to Ivy League schools or, you know, Division I, II, or III schools, is when you walk up, when you're in a supermarket and somebody comes up to you and say, "Hey, Mr. Conaway, how are you?" and you look at the person, you see the face, but you don't remember. That's, how you doing? Which is Mr. Conaway? I remember what you told me. If it wasn't for you, I would have did this. I would. That's a beautiful feeling.
Wow.
That's
You
great.
know,
That's
that's
awesome.
you know, and then Mr. Conaway, come here. I want you to meet my son. I want you to meet my daughter. This is the man right here who, you know, and you know what?
That's a winning
And-
lottery
Yeah,
ticket
and
right
yeah,
there.
and I'm reaching in the back of my head, Bill. I'm saying, what is this kid's name? Because now he's 40 years old, you know,
Right,
and
right.
I know the face, but you know,
Yeah, you don't
but
look the same, that's
yeah,
for sure.
But you
Yeah.
guys have touched so many lives, and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's the great thing about it. And no, you're not always going to succeed, and not everyone's going to be there, but it's just that you guys keep going on, and the passion
But-
you guys talk about, you can see it in all your faces.
But I got another one for you. I got another one for you.
Okay.
High school sports,
Yep.
high school sports, all-stater. You
Yeah.
know, you know,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
another one, too, yeah.
Yeah,
Boy, right,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
big-time
so
athlete, yeah.
captain of the baseball team.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and he's a Tar Heel guy. You know.
Is he Tar Heel
Yeah,
guy?
yeah, till his
Alright.
heart, man. You know.
Alright.
But you know, so the point I'm trying to make here is that the lessons we learn from being athletes,
Yeah.
you know, that raw will, pure will, the sayings, you know, you
Oh, yeah.
don't preach what you can't practice, you know,
Absolutely.
don't say what you can't deliver, all that sort of stuff, you know, roughing it up, rain, shine, snow. Those are the things that that persevered us. The other thing is that, you know, when I got into college, I joined a fraternity. It had models and stuff like that. Same thing. But those are the things that drive me and my passion. That keeps me going, just like the sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do
Absolutely.
just, Bill, I just want to just make one clarification.
Sure.
That when we say that we, the success that we want, I think they all are success. We may not can all be a champion, but
No,
we all
but
can be a
that's-
winner. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, and I mean that in a positive aspect that we take on that we call the concept of sowing seeds.
Right.
That if we
Yeah.
try, we give our best, then even if that seed don't grow,
That's all we
the
can
look-
ask of that
that's-
person.
absolutely.
And that's
Yeah.
what- but you know, my point is that, you know, and I know that the schools have all gone to this Common Core. And I think that's one of the worst things in the world, because nobody wants to be, you know, we don't want common. We want the next kid to come out and maybe cure cancer. We don't know who he is. He could be from New Haven. He could be from Bridgeport.
That's
he could
right.
Be down in San Francisco. We don't know, but we're trying to make all these kids common. We don't want to do that. We want to say, hey, every person, and I don't care who they are, has God-given gifts, and maybe in sports, maybe it's in music, maybe they're doctors, maybe lawyers. They could be a janitor, or just touching someone's life. And you know, you always look back and you see somebody, and people, you know, throughout all our lives, and like you know, kind of pointed to before, you know, he touched your life and everything a long time ago, and you look back and you say, you know, how this person kind of affected my life, and maybe just in a little way, maybe it's a year or something like that, but we all have these God-given gifts, and we just have to, it's a matter of finding them, and I think that's great that you go to these kids, and when you go out there, do you say, hey, you know, I think you could be a good mechanic or something like that, or you know, these kids have certain talents.
Yeah, that would
If
be
you
good.
point them
Tell
out,
us,
and I
tell
think
us
that was
things
one of
that
the-
you say.
Yeah,
That'd be very
what do you
interesting
say
to
to the
hear.
kids? That's
Well,
good.
I
That's a
would
good
say
one.
this, that
Yeah.
and then I would pass the baton. But
Yeah.
I look at, when I was in college, I loved it history.
Mhm.
And when you open up a book, the book can take you places where you've never been. Now, if I had a quiz and told you who built the fastest computer, you probably say Bill Gates, but it was Paul Philip Ekwambi out of Minnesota, who dropped out of school at 14 years old because at that time they was able to pay for his education. I look at people like Einstein. When you look at Einstein, according to the history, said Einstein was dyslexic, but one of the smartest men in the world.
Yeah.
And I look at Sarah Boom. Sarah Boom, who invented the ironing board, and I'm not going to go in Charles Drew and Philip Latimer, and I can go on. So when I look at these individuals who did not have this education, what we call Common Core, and we just yesterday, 3 of us we went to New York and visited a school, and visit the school and we looked at their plan and how they didn't measure by the state requirements or people requirements, but and showing how kids can meet that goal. So I tell kids they can be whatever they want to be.
Yeah.
If you can dream it, you believe it, you hope. My staff know my philosophy is never come in my meeting and tell me that a kid can't make it. See, even if a kid is not there at that particular time, if it don't mean that he can't get there.
Oh, yeah.
He can make it.
can make
And like I alluded to, we all can be winners. You got to tell folks they're a winner. There's something great inside you. It's like a seed. You take a seed and you leave a seed on top of a table. The seed will never grow.
Right.
But if you take that seed and plant it, I didn't say bury it, plant it. And what I'm saying is if you sow a seed in these kids' life, it may be a seed of everyone telling them you'll never be nothing, but you're telling them you can be something.
Yeah.
And if you can get that kid that never went to school, that can come to school 60%
Of the time.
of the time, you're doing something. You're saying, see, I told you you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to realize every last one of us, somebody invested in our life and told us, if it was grandma, if it was the uncle, if it was the best friend that told you you can be great. And we all have stories.
Right.
And so, but our good stories outweigh our bad. So our philosophy is to plant a seed. So when you plant that seed, and that seed may be in a dark place when you put it in the dirt. I'm just figuratively speaking, not literally. Put it in a dark place, and it goes through the storm, the rains, people stomp on it, and then a summertime come, and then you see a beautiful flower or an apple tree or something.
Right.
And that's what we plant in the kid's life.
It only needs that one little ray of light.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
Let me tell you what drives me. And I'm going to give you the order. Every Sunday I go to St. Andrew's Church. I'm an Episcopalian. I'm the junior warden at St. Andrew's Church. And every day, every Sunday, and sometimes during the week, I go get the Word, and I listen to the Word. And the Word tells me that I have to pay it forward. I pay it forward by number one, being a role model to my family, my 3 sons and my daughter and my wife. Then I pay it forward by going into New Light every day and working with these kids. So it's somewhat of a calling. The next thing is that I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Manhood, scholarship, uplift, and perseverance. You have to give back to be a part of this fraternity that I've been a member of for over 30 years. So church, my family, my job, and my fraternity. I keep it simple.
Yeah.
I keep it simple, but that's what keeps me going. And then of course being around these type of guys right here, this is another type of a brotherhood. So that's what keeps me going. I'm honest with kids. I try to be a role model to them. I try not to lie to them. If I make a mistake, I apologize to them. I make every effort to be humble. If I could share any of my wealth, I share it with them. That's including knowledge. That's including what I've learned from my family. That's including what I learned from church. That's including what I learned from my fraternity. That's including from what I learned from my friends. So, and I just tell them those things every day. Stuff like, winners never quit. Just different, start where you're at. Do what you can. That sort of quotes like that. Don't, I can't judge you for what you did yesterday, but I'm going to judge you for what you're doing today and what you do tomorrow. That sort of stuff.
Right.
This is a second chance. Just be motivational to them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you said that if I make a mistake, I'll tell them I'll apologize for it, because
Humility.
I think these kids have all made mistakes, and maybe they feel like they got to hide in the shadow or something like that. They can't come out. But
Blango,
we all make mistakes.
Mr. Blango said he was one of those kids. I was one of those kids. My brother was one of those kids. My sister was one of those kids. And then at some point, John and Bill, at some point, a light goes up. Sometimes it's earlier for some individuals and it's later for others. When that light goes off, then that's when you begin to perform. I've never heard, I'm going to say two more things. I've never heard anybody said that they want less education. I want to be less education. I want to dumb me down. They want more education. They want to learn more about life. Yeah. And I had a philosophical change with education just recently. And this never happened to me. I never gave a kid this type of advice. I gave a kid some advice, but let me tell you how it went down. Kid came to me from one of the comprehensive schools, and he was telling me that he kept saying, "Mr. Conaway, I want a job. I want a job." He was a 60%er. That means he came to school 60% of the time or less. Truant, wasn't performing well academically, didn't have a lot of credits to graduate. Probably if he went through and got the 24 or 26 credits he needed to graduate, he probably would take a couple years. So he'd have been like 20 or 21 when he graduated. Okay. So he came to me about a month ago, and he says, "Mr. Conaway, I'm quitting school." Now, normally what I say, "Nah, son, you can't quit school. You got to get your degree. You can't do anything without a high school diploma, blah, 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 blah." Then he said to me, "Well, my grandfather has been working at this factory for 25 years, and he's getting ready to retire. And his foreman said that I could come and take my grandfather's place. He's going to train me until my grandfather retires. Now, he's going to be making about $2,000, $2,500 a month." And I've never said this to a kid. I said, "You know what, son? You might have to take that job right now. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep you on the rolls. Yeah. And if that job doesn't work out in 90 days, you could come back to school. Promise me that. I want you to make me another promise. If you keep this job, I need you that after this time period, enroll in adult education and get you a GED. Yeah. So I actually supported him in quitting school. I've never in my life did that, but I'm going to change my philosophy because I learned a lesson from that kid. Yeah. You know?
But see, that's the point of, like, sometimes you just need to kind of pull them a little bit. Not so much push them, but pull them a little bit. You know, give them that thing, that little, "Hey, this is the drive. This is where I want you to go." Yeah. And I like that. You know, sometimes not everybody's the same, and I think that's different. Some kids need different. You know, like you were saying, some kids at different stages in their life.
They need different. They have different pathways.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you know what? And then I know what really, you know, John and William, you know what really made me think? I started thinking about my own family, and I started thinking about my uncles and my father and my aunts, and they came up from Georgia, and they worked at Stanley Works in New Britain, Connecticut. Yeah. None of them had a high school diploma. Yeah. One of them. My father-in-law, he never told me. I think he was a millionaire when he died, and he worked at he was a longshoreman, and he worked as delivering coal. Yeah. But guess what happened when he was delivering coal? They stopped doing coal stoves. It turned to oil, and he saved up enough money to buy an oil truck. Guess what? He blew up. Wow. Guess what he had? 7th or 8th grade education. So I said, maybe this kid. Did you say somebody that, you know, what about the kid who dropped out of school who invented the computer or something like that? You said? Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of them situations. So I said, maybe this is one of them kids. So I backed off it. And I'm an educator. And philosophically, I believe that, you know, I want to push education. But on this one, I had to let go of my whole philosophy. Yeah. And I just, and just different experiences, different relatives, different facts, just, you know, just was running through my mind. So I guess, you know, I matured a little bit.
Some of these kids, I mean, 27 of the 50 richest people in the world don't have college diplomas, and they never graduated from college. So they're, you know, people can make it without, and I have, you know, family that came over from Poland, and, you know, they're not millionaires by any means, but they, you know, they made a good life for themselves.
I think he was. I'm not sure, so I can't confirm that, because, you know, he kept.
Your wife hasn't told you yet.
Yeah. No, I don't think he told too many. I don't think she knows either. But, you know, I think he was really.
But that's a great story, because there are a lot of kids out there that probably just need a little push, a little pull here or there, and they can become something. And the education is important, but sometimes you're a leader, and sometimes those qualities you can't really teach. You know, those are things that are inside you, and they can lead a company and lead people around them and be something great without, you know, the greatest education.
He's a 17-year-old kid who made me change my philosophy.
Well,
so, but
you know what? I admit it. One step further, though, Larry. You got all the information together. You knew how much money the child was going to make. You put the seed in him, like Charles was talking about, that you could do better than what you're doing now. Yeah. You got to keep striving. And that's what he did. He kept his nose to the grindstone, and he kept looking for a better way. You delivered that for him.
He delivered it. He delivered it. I just supported about
Well,
it.
you guided him. You got him on the right track. If you go back and you find out where he was before he met you, you'll find out that you put him on that right track.
I hope I had something to do with it.
And plus, you gave him the option.
I'm humbly, saying I was supportive, but he found the right track,
Yeah.
And a lot of kids have it in them. You just bring it out of them. You know that. Like
yeah.
the coach used to, the coach used to make us do things.
Got to do some things now. Now, just to flip the story around, now you said that he actually showed you something too. So you think that maybe God put him in your path to try to
teach you?
teach? There's a lot of things here. Yeah, I mean,
he definitely put another strategy and another skill set in my strategy bag.
Yeah.
And something that I never used. I've never done. That never came out of my mouth. Okay, I'm gonna allow you to drop out. Like I would say, I'm not advising you to drop out of high school right now. But I said, here's what I'm gonna do. You want to drop out? Okay, I'm gonna support you dropping out. But he was going to this small factory where he's gonna make a couple $1,000s a month, legitimately.
Yeah.
And his grandfather and his mother were supporting him. You know what I compared it to? You know how when a kid is in college they go hardship?
Yeah.
The kid went hardship.
Yeah.
At another level to help out himself and his family.
That's true.
Well, I think it would be critically important at this time that Earl and Reggie, because I will let Reggie tell this story that about even late in life that as being a dropout prevention officer and engaging in kids' life, that he can talk about the story about what drove him, that he even went later to go back to school to get his bachelor's degree. And
Yeah, I mean that, and that's what I was going to interject. That we have experiences in life, and we're now at we're in a position where we can have an impact on people and children and even families' experiences. And it only takes one positive experience that could alter and change your life for good. Mr. Conaway, talking with this young man, he made a decision based on his experiences, based on his grandfather's experiences. But Mr. Conaway always left that room in there for that hope. You know, that hope and, okay, son, you want to do this now. This is because this is the experiences that you're faced with. You're economically challenged. We understand that, but you got to leave that window open, that door cracked, so that, like you said, if it doesn't work out, this is what you.
There's your lifeline in case you need it. Yeah.
Absolutely,
and
absolutely,
that's what
absolutely.
I love about that.
Again, I wanted to be that example for young men. Education has always been a value in my family. I was the last one to go to college in my family, and so I went to the School of Human Services at Springfield College about 6 years ago. Got my degree. Not to say, hey, look, I got my degree, but for my own edification. Because those were my values. That was the value of my family. And I always said that I wanted to, go ahead and finish my education. So what I would like to bring, to young people's lives, let them know that it can never be too late.
Yeah.
It can never be too late to go ahead and follow up on something that you always wanted to do. You always, had it in the back of your mind that this is something that you want to do, but because of life, because of, different obstacles that you might faced, you thought that it wasn't something that you could obtain, but it's something that maybe hindered you or slowed you down. You can eventually get there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, that's something that I tell young people. I let them know that it's important to dream. It's important to to have goals. Some of them may say, well, look at my circumstances. I mean, you know, this is where I come from. Yeah, this is your circumstances now.
Right.
But this is not. You're not going to always be 18.
Yeah.
You're gonna grow. You're gonna trust me. You're gonna see different things. You're gonna see life different if you
Absolutely.
live long enough. So I try to instill in them that just don't evaluate your future from where you are now, young man or young lady. Look at yourself 10, 15, 20 years from now. Your life, I guarantee you, your life is going to be different.
Totally different.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
so some of them, you know, they grasp that and take it. And, you know, I see people, like you said, you see people in the community that come, hey, Mr. Slade, how you doing? You know, I'm married
Absolutely.
now, and they show you their children, and they show you pictures, and they said, you know, I want to thank you for hanging in there with me. Just hanging in there and encouraging me, and I might see the parents of those children, and they're thanking me. And so, you know, 15, 16 years in the business of working with people in the community, trying to get them to put value in their education. It's rewarding. It is rewarding. I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to experience, you know, some of the things that I've done in the community. I look forward for even a brighter future, you know, encouraging and working with young people, encouraging them to stay the course, you know.
Well, it seems like you guys have kind of,
Yeah.
it seems like a ripple effect that's going off. And like you say, if you could touch more lives and all of a sudden it's going to go off and this kid mentors somebody else and this one mentors someone else.
Yes.
Or whether it's a young lady, young gentleman that's coming out of this, the programs, I think that's a great thing. It's just a positive thing all around. And, you know, that's just an amazing thing you guys are all doing. So.
But here's a flip side to it, Bill, too, also, that Mr. Earl Carthens could talk about, even that how you can live a good life coming from down south and having a high school diploma, but having many experiences, and talk about how long that he's been with the Board of Education.
And how valuable, valuable he's been.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's been extremely
Absolutely.
valuable.
So talk about that, Red.
Yeah, I grew up in North Carolina, a little place called Rayford. We were all Tar Heel fans. We were all by the TV, we were watching.
You had a tough year this year.
Yeah.
With Duke.
I had five brothers and I have 3 sisters. Where I worked about the cotton field, the tobacco field, so I did all those things. I watched every one of these guys, kids, every one of them had a kid that came through Cross while I was at Cross. He had one of his older sons. Conaway had one son, maybe a daughter, maybe.
Yeah.
Blango had 2 sons that came through.
You had an impact on Adam, too.
Yes. Adam worked as a teacher there, but it's a great experience. I had my mother and my father, and they were there for me.
Yeah.
And I see kids every day that don't have those things. I didn't get a college degree because my parents back there, they just made you get a high school diploma.
Right.
And I said I would go back to school. It's been over 40 years now, right at 40 years, and I never got back there. But if I had to do it again, I wouldn't change a thing, because I've been working with young people all my life. You know, and young people watching what I do, and you didn't even know that they was watching you. But I have this is the second generation. Just about all the kids that's there at Cross now.
Yeah.
I was there when their parents were there. So they all come up and say, keep an eye out for our kids, like you did for me.
Yeah.
And those are the rewarding things. So you see a lot of people coming from, coming from what people would say couldn't make it, and turn out to be people that working at Yale or doing great things. But everybody can tell you that Wilbur Cross has kids working everywhere. And I want to say, Mr. Conaway, the kids come by, they say, hey, Mr. Conaway. I said, how you doing? A lot of the kids mistake me for. But I want to say quickly before I turn the mic over, I remember Mr. Blango when I first came up. He was very inspirational inspirational, and we worked a Connecticut shootout camp where Mr. Ben Hunter was led that out, but we worked together there, and we didn't know at the time that we were really shaping lives. And, some of these kids are NBA players. Some of the kids are going on to be doctors, principals of school. I remember Mr. Conaway did the high school. When I went over there, that's where I first met him. I went in there because I was doing night security, and I didn't know that later on we would come so close. Everybody here is close. We're family. And closing.
Yes. Take your time.
Being a God-fearing man, making God the center of your life. When you do that, He'll bring you before great people. Great people.
They'll put you in their path.
Right.
Yeah.
My father told me, he said, I can give you a good name. You have to keep it. That's what I have to say.
That's good advice. That's great. Now,
That's excellent.
I think that's probably your upbringing. Like you said, you had that structure there, and you had your brothers and sisters, and I think that you were able to take that and kind of shape a lot of lives in between. And you had humble upbringings, and look at all that you've accomplished from now. And you say you look back and you see all the lives you touched. I mean, that's got to be something in itself to say, hey, I've come a long way, and I think your parents would be proud of the man you became. I can tell you that right now, because you kept that name. I think your father's right. You kept it in a good place, and I think that's good to show kids. Is that that's a great point. Is that we all get this name as our parents. We come into this life, and we all come in different ways and in different upbringings. But where we take ourselves from there, and sometimes we need the aids of others. Like you say, good people are put in your life at certain times. We're intertwined with people who may affect you in a different way, or may give you, hey, turn that light on. Like we said, it's just that moment. When's that moment coming? It's coming.
Bill, I got to tell you and John, Wilbur Cross High School was one of the most challenging and one of the biggest placements that I was placed at under the superintendency of Dr. Reginald Slade. And when I got there, I didn't know a lot about Wilbur Cross. Earl Carthens was the man who showed me, how to walk up the back stairs, the hallways, the back parking lots, what kids were what, who was what, giving me that cross history and stuff like that. I leaned on him for probably the first two. I was there for 11 years. The first 2 years, if it wasn't for Earl, I couldn't have made that transition. It wasn't the principal. It wasn't teachers. It wasn't my colleagues. It was Earl Carthens, and I just saw how he moved around the school and how he helped kids and how how kids helped him. And then year 3, I took off. Year 3 I took off. I had to tell him a couple things then,
I learned from both of these guys. I'm not to hog the mic at all, but they keep me humble. Whenever I do something, they'll bring, all right, now, Real. And that's enough to bring me back to reality that, you have to be careful how you conduct your life because people are watching.
Absolutely. Especially in this day and age when
social media.
It's brutal. And it's one thing that, and that's what I try to tell kids too, is we all make mistakes. So just don't compound it. That's where you want to. And I think the humble upbringings. I think the, we were talking about church before. I think that if you're a God-fearing man, it does so much for your life.
It grounds you. It makes you realize you're not too high.
It gives you that stability. And I love what you guys do, and I love the point with the seed. Like you said, 3 years later, he planted the seed, and maybe it took that 3 years.
Yeah, it did.
You took that torch, you're running with it.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I love the fact that you guys just stay together and just kind of. You had mentioned before you went to New York. Now, do you guys did you go to New York because you were trying to learn something from their school systems, or are you going there to teach their school system? Because you guys seem like you have a good success rate here. So is that?
That was a learning trip.
That was a learning
trip for us. Yeah, we were looking to learn something from New York. Our current superintendent, he has deep roots in New York City, and we went with the Mayor Harp, and her contingency, and the superintendent. The 3 of us went yesterday, and we were looking at what they call they call them transfer schools.
Okay.
Now, New York City has probably about, we have 2 alternative schools. No, we have 5 if you count all the schools. They have like 52.
Wow.
And they got and they got probably at least anywhere from 4 to 10 years of experience.
Yes.
Yeah, and they got some very dynamic leaders. The superintendent from New York came. We met with some community-based organizations. We looked at their model, their partnerships. They're doing some things that we would like to borrow, I think. Yeah, so it was a learning trip, and I do want to thank Superintendent Harris and Mayor Tony Harp for leading that trip, along with Gemma, Joseph, and my supervisor, Dr. Blocker.
Yeah.
So it was a great trip. You want say something about it?
Yes, when I went to New York, sometimes I use the sports analogy this time. When you're good, but you ain't great. And when I went to New York, I see how we can be great. And as I alluded to, looking at the model, that how they didn't use a point system like you take a test, you know, and we use, oh, you got a C, you got a D, you got an F. But they use practical life, you know, see if the individual can comprehend. And then they have rolling enrollment, and that means that kids that they do trimesters, that kids can 3 months, maybe in December, and we pretty much do the same thing, but not rolling enrollment. But when they transfer from school from December in the middle, and what I loved about it more than anything was 2 things. First, the passion of the principal.
Oh my goodness.
The young lady named Lucinda Mendez. And when I looked at the
South
passion,
Bronx, South Bronx, yes.
Yes. And in addition to that, what I loved that they listened to the kids, that they had studied a zero tolerance rate, the zero tolerance in behavior.
Right.
That you know, because you never know that if a kid comes to school with a hat on, did his mother, did he have to babysit? Was he cold? Was the heat off? So looking at understanding the social issue of the kid, it really put a light bulb in my head to say, listen, if the kid didn't come to school, but now he's coming to school 60% of the time, you're measuring success by
from
that.
0 to 60. Yeah, from 0 to 60. See, and people will look at 60% like, oh my God, this kid's missing a lot of school. But look, he went from 0 to 60. I agree with that. They had rolling enrollment, and they had rolling graduation too. Like, so when you completed the celebrations took place in June, but once you finished you know your coursework, they would, you know, they would honor. They would say you have a degree. You know, they would just do the ceremony in June. So that was good. We learned something, and I mean 50. Like just imagine score 51 or 52 to 2 or 3. I mean, you know, I think they got more kids in alternative education than we probably got in our whole district.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, and I mean New York City, what, they got 1 million kids, you know, so
1 million kids, over 3 billion people.
3 million kids, yeah.
Wow.
So it was good, and again, that was a very strategic move by our superintendent, our mayor, and the other leadership who took us on that.
Well, it's good that they're not giving up on the kids, and they're always trying to find that next outlet in case they need it. And I think that's what's important, is we need to find new ways to kind of get these kids involved.
No, they call it student centered.
Okay.
They had a student centered model. And the other thing that they did, this was really interesting. They said that, and you have to build a school culture for this, but they said that when they hire new teachers, when they hire new staff, they say one of the vetting processes, one of the things that the teacher or the staff has to go through is they have to interview with the students. There's a group of students to interview, and if the students say yay or nay, you know, because young people can smoke adults out. Now I don't know that teacher. There's something I don't.
Wow.
Well, I think that's the problem with a lot of these teachers, and I've argued around here in our school system is, you know, with tenured and everything. I think we want teachers with passion. that really take,
Yeah.
and I was really fortunate. I wasn't the best student in the world, but I had great teachers.
Great.
And they were always on me. You know,
Uh-huh.
you could do more, you could do better, and it was like you said, that light moment, you have that. And you have people that have faith in you, and I think that's what you're giving to your kids, too.
Trying to.
Yeah, and if
Yeah.
you give them that little faith, you know, it's just it's an amazing thing. But the kids need to see that in the person. You know, he's helping me. So when you come up to a kid, I mean, right away, they're probably like, you know, they probably size you up a little bit, and all of a sudden you look in their eyes and you say, hey, I see something in you.
That's the key right there.
Yeah.
That's the key. Like, I see something in you. Come
Yeah.
with your A game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
bring your A game. Don't bring your B or C game. Bring your A, because when you bring your A game, you're going to be something. 'Cause I see it. You're holding back. You're holding back on everybody, John, like, or something like that, or
Yeah.
William or Larry. You're holding back. You could do. You come on. You could do better than that.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden that hope comes up, and you know, they say, hey, wait a second, this guy sees something in me. Maybe nobody else saw in me, or like you said, it's that time. And that's what you want to bring out in these kids, and I think you guys all have, and that's amazing, you know, especially that you're out there and you're so passionate, and
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
it's awesome. So that's what this world needs, is we need more of you guys, and teaching these kids how to, you know, like you say, live your life. We're not asking everybody to be rocket scientists. We're not asking everybody to be the next NBA star or the next NFL star. We're asking you just to contribute and give to me. Giving back, I think, is the ultimate thing you could ever do. I don't, you know.
What
Yeah,
that
it's
Mr.
unbelievable.
Blango is just taking, you know, not just dropout truancy, but just dropout truancy, yes, but the whole Board of Education with his unit, he's bringing things to another level. I just want to thank him for that, you know, because he has wisdom and insight that people really, you know, don't know about, and sometimes Blango is a lot more intelligent, has a lot more insight, a lot more smarter than people think he is. So I just want to, you know, publicly say thank you, Blango, for what you're doing, and I know you got that wisdom. I know you got that smartness. I know you have that intellect. and I know sometimes you be holding back, but thank you.
My mother always told me, she said, listen, and if you ever want to be the worst person in the world, watch the worst person and then mimic him. You ever want to be the smartest person in the world and see how successful you can, then be around people that's successful and mimic what they do.
Right.
And so I just mimic. I get around people like Mr. Conaway, like I alluded to earlier, that we have over a 35-year relationship. Addition, Mr. Earl Carthens, that like you alluded to, that if someone could pray for you and help you do tough times, and Reggie, that we called him on our job the philosopher, which you see.
Oh my
so
God.
just to hear his words of wisdom, and you take it to heart. And even how me and you connect, John, in the gym, and what positive enforcement, positive. And you know that when we down, oh, it's going to get better. When we talk about our jobs, it's going to get better. Just to sow that seed of positivity, and that's why we became kindred spirits, and that's basically.
I feel William too, though. I feel his spirit.
Yeah.
I feel it.
It's all there.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of, the hour went by quick, I tell you.
Yeah, that was
great,
a quick
but
hour.
I say I learned a lot from you guys today. I had goosebumps a lot during the show. You've inspired me, and I know you've been touching a lot of lives and the kids and stuff like that, so that's a great thing. But
Could I just ask you to, or ask the viewers to, we just have a website, a small website called newlighthighschool.com. I think she's going to give me some credits for it after, but I just want to
Put
invite.
that up tonight,
I want to invite the viewers to look at that, and they could contact the school, or just see more of the work that we do.
all right, that
Thank you.
sounds good.
All right.
Thank you very much for another week of The Take. We're going to have these guys on later on in the future, but everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Thanks again.